Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika Mehto, and coming up in the next 1 hour. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pleads guilty to a felony charge in deal with US authorities, returns home to Australia after decades. Russia pins blame on the US for deadly missile attack on Crimea that killed 4 on Sunday, vows response. June the 25th marks anniversary of emergency declared by India's former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in the year 1975. And in T20 Cricket World Cup, India beat Australia to secure a semi-final spot. Afghanistan, on the cusp of history, need a victory against Bangladesh to play South Africa in another semi-final. A very good morning to all our viewers here on DD India News Hour. And now to begin with the latest story of the day. Julian Assange is free. He was granted bail by the High Court in London and was released at Stansted Airport during the afternoon, where he boarded a plane and departed the United Kingdom. Assange left Belmarsh maximum security prison after having spent 1,901 days there. On his release, WikiLeaks said this is the result of a global campaign all the way to the United Nations. This created the space for a long period of negotiations with the US Department of Justice. The charges against the WikiLeaks founder in the US stem from one of the largest publications of classified information in America's history. 52 years old Assange has agreed to plead guilty to a single criminal count of conspiring to obtain and disclose a classified US national defense documents. Assange is due to be sentenced to 62 months of time already served at a hearing on the island of Saipan. And now to get you more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent straight from Washington, Nick Harper. A very good morning from India to you, Nick. Now, what is the plea deal? If we talk about the plea deal, we just an hour ago discussed of what it holds. But what exactly is it holding for the stakeholders there, Nick?
Well, Deepika, we've already seen an incredible outpouring on social media over the last couple of hours since this story broke. You mentioned just a moment ago some of the reaction from WikiLeaks. They have also gone on to say that Julian Assange fought for us and Julian's freedom is our freedom, referring to all the grassroots supporters who've been with him throughout this campaign. Because bear in mind that since 2012, he spent 7 years inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London, holed up there to escape extradition to the United States. In 2019, police went into the embassy, dragged him out, and he ended up being jailed for a further 5 years in London, in a prison there. He's now on a plane out of the United Kingdom, heading to a court appearance. His wife, Stella Assange, has said, "Words cannot express our immense gratitude to you, you who've mobilised for years and years to make this come true." We've also heard from a number of press freedom organisations who've championed this case and fought to get him released, saying that they still thought that it was alarming that the Biden administration felt the need to extract a guilty plea from Julian Assange. But not everyone is happy with this. We've heard from a former FBI Assistant Director, Frank Figliuzzi. He said that Assange did irreparable harm and that he endangered lives. We're likely to get plenty more reaction, but not everyone is happy with the release of Julian Assange, a man that they say endangered lives by releasing those 700,000 classified documents from the military back in 2010.
And also, Nick, how does this impact the elections there in the USA, which are upcoming, if at all this would have any sort of impact on it?
Well, it's difficult to tell at this stage, I would say, Deepika, but bear in mind that we're 4 months out from the election. Anything could happen. And it's interesting to note Back in 2016, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange indirectly had a huge bearing on the election then, the election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, who went on to win and get 4 years in the White House. On the eve of the Democratic Convention in the summer of 2016, WikiLeaks released a whole trove of information, classified hacked emails from the Democratic Committee, emails that had been hacked by a Russian intelligence agency, and they published those online, much to the embarrassment to the Democratic Committee. Now, we have a debate here, a presidential debate in just a couple of days' time, and undoubtedly both candidates, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, will be asked about Assange and their reaction. Joe Biden pushed for this deal to happen. He wanted to get the charges dropped. But at the same time, bear in mind that Julian Assange's indictment back in 2016 happened during the Trump administration. And the thinking is that at that time, Donald Trump was pushing very hard to get those charges pinned to Assange, really making him a political person that was being charged with the release of that incredible amount of information that was classified, and therefore the military were pushing Donald Trump to get those charges against Assange.
All right, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us and bringing us the latest on the latest development. Moving on to Russia now. Russia has accused the United States of direct involvement in Sunday's deadly attack on Sevastopol, Crimea on Sunday. Now, Russia's defense ministry said the missiles used by Ukraine were the US-supplied ATACMS missiles and claimed they were programmed by US specialists. The Russian Defense Ministry said 4 of the US-delivered Army Tactical Missile System missiles equipped with cluster warheads were shot down by air defense systems, and the ammunition of a 5th had detonated in mid-air. Russia also condemned the lack of response from the UN Secretariat, calling it an example of double standards.
All responsible for this and other terrorist attacks will be held accountable. The fact that the US is directly involved in this crime is beyond any doubt. The lack of any meaningful response from the UN Secretariat that is supposed to stand against such obvious crimes and violations of international law is even more regretful. It is a clear example of double standards of the UN Secretariat, who is very eloquent on other occasions.
Now, 4 people and over 150 more were injured in the attack as missile debris fell on a beach nearby. The US ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, was summoned to the Foreign Ministry with a warning that retaliation would follow. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Washington provides weapons to Ukraine so it can defend its sovereign territory, including Crimea.
We provide weapons to Ukraine so it can defend its sovereign territory against armed aggression. That includes in Crimea, which of course is part of Ukraine. And Russia could stop this war today and end the suffering caused by the war Russia launched today if it would stop its occupation of sovereign Ukrainian territory and stop launching attacks on civilians.
Meanwhile, 2 Russian missiles hit the town of Pokrovsk on Monday. At least 5 people have been killed and over 40 were wounded in the strike. The injured have been admitted to the hospital. Volunteers and bypassers transported the victims to the hospital. Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office said that Russian troops launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles at the town that is about 24 kilometers from the front line. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has replaced the commander of the Joint Forces Command of Ukraine's military. Zelensky said he'd appointed Brigadier General Andrei Natov as the new commander of the Joint Forces of Ukraine's armed forces. Andrei have replaced Lieutenant General Yuri Sudol. The announcement was made after a series of reports that Sudol had performed badly in more than 2-year-old conflict against Russia. And now let's take a look at some other developments apart from those from the battleground. The European Union will now open membership talks with Ukraine on Tuesday, giving the country a political boost. The ceremony will be held in Luxembourg. It will focus on symbolism, starting from the European Union that assesses Ukrainian legislation for reforms to meet European Union standards. Deputy Prime Minister Olga Stefanishyna will lead the Ukrainian delegation at the event. marking the start of talks with Ukraine and Moldova. European Union is signaling that both the countries are on a path towards greater integration with the West. The foreign policy advisor to Ukrainian President Zelensky, Ahor Zavovska, said it would give the Ukrainians a morale on big lift. French President Emmanuel Macron and NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg met in Paris on Monday. Both the leaders met to discuss the upcoming July NATO summit and the situation in Ukraine. They reaffirmed their staunch support to Kyiv, while NATO member countries are set to meet in Washington, D.C. on the 9th and 10th of July with an aim of agreeing on a support package for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Jens Stoltenberg will step down as NATO chief in the month of October after nearly a decade at the helm.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Monsieur le secrétaire général.
The European Union's foreign policy chief says a plan has been devised to ensure Ukraine receives funds to Russian frozen assets. European Union foreign ministers convened for talks on Monday on how to navigate Hungary's opposition to support Kyiv. William Denslow reports from Brussels.
The European Union's Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has warned that, as evidenced by Vladimir Putin, Russia's president's recent trip to North Korea, Moscow is planning for a long-haul war in Ukraine. He says for that reason, investment for Kyiv in its war effort must continue unabated. There are two sides to what the EU is trying to achieve when it comes to its support for Ukraine. The first is tightening the purse strings on the Kremlin. We've seen evidence of that by the fact that the EU has recently passed its 14th round of sanctions on Moscow, this time largely targeting liquefied natural gas that Russia produces. The other major part of it is providing a military support for Ukraine going forward. One huge issue for the European Union has been Hungary, which has been a major holdout for the EU's efforts to provide Ukraine with greater military assistance. However, Josep Borrell says that EU members have found a workaround because the fact that Budapest earlier this year abstained from a vote regarding Ukrainian funding. Borrell says that that means they can move forward without Hungary's participation to get some degree of financing passed. He says that is to the tune of around $1.5 billion in military assistance. It also potentially provides a green light for the use of frozen Russian assets. Recently, when G7 leaders met in Italy, they agreed on a plan to provide Ukraine with a loan to the tune of around $50 billion that would then be paid back with those frozen Russian assets. When it comes to further developments for Ukraine, well, the first conference of accession talks for Ukraine to potentially join the EU is scheduled to begin on Tuesday in Luxembourg. That'll really be an opportunity for both sides to agree or to start the process of agreeing on a framework for Ukraine to begin its path towards joining the European Union. William Denslow in Brussels reporting for DD India.
It's now time to take a quick and short break here on DD India News Hour, but still to come on the other side. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant arrived at State Department in Washington on Monday for talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Minnesota's Rapidan Dam faces imminent failure due to flood. And Kenya deploys police contingent to Haiti.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Now let's get you an update from the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant arrived at State Department in Washington on Monday for talks with the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Gallant discussed the next phase of the Gaza war and escalating hostilities on the border with Lebanon. The Hezbollah began attacking Israel shortly after Hamas's 7th of October attack that sparked a conflict, and the sides have been trading blows in the month since then. Hezbollah has said it will not stop until there is a ceasefire in Gaza. Earlier in the month of June, Hezbollah targeted Israeli towns and military sites after an Israeli strike killed the most senior Hezbollah commander yet. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken pressed Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on the need for Israel to swiftly develop a robust post-war plan for Gaza and ensure that the tensions with Hezbollah on Israel's northern border do not escalate further. Gallant has been on a trip to Washington, D.C. and also met Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk, the top aides to the U.S. President Joe Biden, as well as CIA Director Bill Burns. He's set to meet with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Tuesday. Now, the first Kenyan police officers assigned to tackle rampant gang violence in Haiti are leaving Kenya on Tuesday. Principal Secretary at Kenya's Internal Security and National Administration Ministry, Raymond Omolu, posted photographs of the police contingent bound for Haiti inside a plane on Monday. Omolu wished the group safety and success as they lead a multinational mission that will help restore law and order in the Caribbean nation. Kenya volunteered in July 2023 to lead an international force to tackle violence in Haiti. In Argentina, a retired naval captain and his wife, a retired public municipal worker, for being suspects in the disappearance of a 5-year-old child in the Corinense province. The suspects were charged with recruitment of people for exploitation, aggravated by the fact that the victim was underage. A police agent who hindered the investigation was detained as well. On Monday night, children and adults took to the streets to demand authorities find Lone Pina, who disappeared on the 13th of June in the town of 9th de Julio. A scandal over bets placed on the date of the UK election continues to dominate the campaign trail. There are reports that an investigation into betting by members of the Conservative Party is expanding, and the Conservatives have launched their own probe into the claims now. DT India's Ollie Barrett reports from London.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says that his Conservative Party is carrying out its own investigation into the growing scandal around bets being placed on the date of the snap election. He insists that he doesn't know of any further Conservative Party candidates being investigated by the regulator, the Gambling Commission, at this stage, and the Prime Minister says he himself is not under investigation, but he's still facing major criticism from the other parties. The Labour leader Keir Starmer says if he were a leader of a party which had candidates facing allegations like this, that he would suspend them. The Liberal Democrats have called for the Prime Minister's ethics advisor to investigate, but also to look into whether any cabinet ministers may have placed any bets on the date of the election. And this is all making the final couple of weeks of the election campaign very, very difficult indeed for a Conservative Party already trailing by some distance in the polls. All of the polls still have the Conservatives around 20 points or more behind Labour. So the Labour Party, going into the final week and a bit of the campaign trail, are doing everything they can to try and encourage their voters out on July the 4th when election day gets here. They are trying to urge against complacency and any of their potential supporters feeling that it is a done deal that Labour will win the election.
Now, 22 people were confirmed dead and 8 others injured in South Korea's battery plant fire on Monday. The fire broke out at a primary battery plant in Woswong, around 45 kilometers south of the capital Seoul, at about 1:31 GMT. Firefighters struggled to extinguish the fire because of the difficulty in putting out the flame of lithium batteries. Eyewitnesses described the sound as similar to raining bullets and gunfire. It was unclear what caused the explosion, and the fire was largely extinguished in about 6 hours. Iran's presidential candidate Masoud Pezeshkian campaigned in Tehran, pledging to break the dam of Western sanctions on Iran and ruin those who benefit from them. Iran is due to conduct snap elections on 28th of June after the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash. Pezeshkian, a reformist lawmaker, is running against 5 other candidates.
We must ruin those who benefit from sanctions, those who benefit thousands of billions from these sanctions, and nobody knows. We will stand against them.
Now, the Philippines has accused China of using illegal force to deliberately disrupt a resupply mission in the South China Sea. Its defense chief said that last week's maritime incident that injured a sailor was neither a misunderstanding nor an accident. Meanwhile, reacting to it, China's foreign ministry on Monday urged the Philippines to stop its infringements and provocations amid the two countries' ongoing disputed waters in the South China Sea. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that China and the Philippines should work together to safeguard peace and stability in the South China Sea.
As for the incident of the Philippine ship illegally intruding into the waters adjacent to Rein Ai Jiao, as you mentioned, the Chinese side has briefed you on the situation and clarified its position. Rein Ai Jiao is a part of China's Nansha Islands and it is China's territory. The Philippine side should stop its infringements and provocations, return to the right track of properly handling maritime disputes through negotiation and consultation as soon as possible, and work with China to safeguard peace and stability in the South China Sea.
Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te put out a statement calling China an autocracy as real evil after China threatened to impose the death penalty to die-hard Taiwan independence separatists. He said that China has no right to sanction Taiwan's people.
I also want to call on China to face up to the existence of the Republic of China and have exchanges and dialogue with Taiwan's democratically elected legitimate government. This is the only correct way to increase the welfare of people on both sides of the strait. If this is not done, relations between Taiwan and China will only become more and more estranged.
In the United States, the Rapidan Dam in south-central Minnesota is an imminent failure. Local authorities have notified local residents of the possible danger. The dam is at risk because of debris that has accumulated along the Blue Earth River after days of rising water levels. Authorities have not issued mandatory evacuation orders, but the residents have been warned of the rising water levels. Authorities said they are aware of power outages and are monitoring several local bridges in case they need to be closed because of moving debris. While in South Dakota, flooding has led to significant destruction, including the collapse of a key bridge and widespread damage to homes and infrastructure. Governor Kristi Noem has warned of the prolonged impact the flooding will have on the region. The collapse of the Burlington-Northern Santa Fe Road bridge will have significant repercussions for many months, as it is a crucial link for transporting commodities. In Mexico, high tide after the passing of tropical storm Alberto has caused major damage in the popular beach destination of Playa del Carmen in southeastern region. The foundations, furnishings and facilities of beach clubs and hotels were damaged by the water. Beaches were also reduced by the water, leaving less space on the sand for the tourists. Authorities now hope the beaches will return to their normal state, but recognize that this year the intensity of the rain and drastic changes in temperatures have been worse as compared to the previous years. The world is reeling under extreme effects of climate change, not just land but aquatic flora and fauna that have been worst affected. Devastating coral bleaching has been reported in Thailand's Lo Bakau Bay, Viking Cave and Pile Bay, where it has affected almost 100% of the corals and sea anemone, with the situation deteriorating further. As tourist activities may worsen the bleaching, experts say it is necessary to disclose the areas to tourists in the hope that this may slow down the bleaching process. 10 marine parks and 3 popular diving spots in the Andaman Sea and the Gulf have been closed to the public since April. And now in DD India News Hour, it's time to take a look at other stories making news around the globe. Officials in Mexico and the United States have agreed to new security terms to protect the U.S. health safety inspectors of avocados and mangoes. Two nations are collaborating on curbing illegal deforestation as well as environmental certification for farm products and labor issues. Avocados, in particular, are top Mexican farm export worth billions of dollars each year. The Amerigo Vespucci, which Italians call the world's most beautiful ship, is taking a taste of its homeland on a round-the-year world tour with temporary expositions at several stops, showcasing Italian products and heritage. The ship is a Navy boat that entered service in 1931. It has completed about half of the tour spots and is expected to return to Italian waters in March 2025. The family of a British 13-year-old boy with severe epilepsy has been given his hope back after a device was fitted into his skull to control seizures in a world-first trial. The device's leads are connected to a neostimulator that was placed in a cap in Uran's skull and anchored in a place. It emits a pulse of current to block of disruption abnormal electrical activity in the brain. Previously, neurotransmitters were placed in the chest. 2 cavers missing for 40 hours in a 500-meter deep cave system in northern Spain were found unscathed by a search team. They were discovered in one of the galleries that had been identified as a likely location and were set to emerge shortly from Camasia's Cima del Sombrero cave system. The cave system has many underground rivers and very low temperatures and requires specialized equipment. It's time to take a quick and short break here on DD India News Hour, but still to come on the other side. Indian Parliament passes 3 new criminal laws. And the latest update on the huge tragedy in Tamil Nadu. Country's first dedicated test railway track that is being built in Rajasthan. Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. Let's quickly recap the top headlines of the hour. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pleads guilty to a felony charge and deal with US authorities, returns home to Australia after decades. Russia pins blame on US for deadly missile attack on Crimea that killed 4 on Sunday, vows response. June the 25th marks the anniversary of the emergency declared by India's former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in the year 1975. And in T20 Cricket World Cup, India beat Australia to make it to the semi-finals. Afghanistan on the cusp of history. They just need a victory against Bangladesh to play South Africa in another semi-final. Now, on day 2 of the Parliament session, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to propose the name of a new Speaker for the lower house. The first session of the 18th Lower Chamber of India's legislature began on Monday. The legislators met for the first time after general election. Dibyendu Mondal reports.
And its first sitting on Monday. As per customs, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the media in the morning before the beginning of the first session.
सरकार चलाने के लिए बहुमत होता है, लेकिन देश चलाने के लिए सहमति बहुत जरूरी होती है। जो लोग भारत की लोकतांत्रिक परंपराओं पे निष्ठा रखते हैं, उनके लिए 25 जून न भूलने वाला दिवस है। कल 25 जून को भारत के लोकतंत्र में जो काला धब्बा लगा था, उसके 50 वर्ष हो रहे हैं।
On Monday morning, before the beginning of the first session of the new Lok Sabha, the President of India administered oath to the pro-term Speaker. The pro-term Speaker is a temporary position who presides over the proceedings of the Lok Sabha to administer oath to all the newly elected parliamentarians. The swearing-in ceremony of the parliamentarians began at around 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi was the first parliamentarian to be sworn in on Monday morning. This was followed by the oath-taking ceremony of all the cabinet ministers and the Council of Ministers of the government. On the first day, more than 260 parliamentarians were sworn in into the Lok Sabha, or the lower house of the Indian Parliament.
India's former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi imposed a nationwide emergency in the year 1975 on the 25th of June. Now, several opposition leaders were arrested. Emergency imposed citing breakdown of the law and order situation of the country owing to massive protests by the opposition parties alleging corruption by the Congress regime. Now, during the emergency, Indira Gandhi bestowed upon herself the power to rule by decree. On the 21st of March in the year 1977, Indira Gandhi withdrew the emergency and announced general elections. The Congress party was then ousted by Janata Party, led by Morarji Desai, that gained absolute majority. Morarji Desai became the first non-Congress Prime Minister of India then. And DD India correspondent Nandita Dagar spoke to a veteran journalist and anti-emergency activist, Mr. K. Vikram Rao, who recounted how he spent 13 months in jail.
On 25th of June 1975, the then Indian Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, had imposed a national emergency where the powers of the Constitution were completely curbed. And during that time, there were journalists and several professionals, people who were agitating and were political prisoners. We are joined by Mr. K. Vikram Rao. He is a veteran journalist of more than 40 years of experience in the media. Why is it important that the young generation knows about it?
On 25th of June 1975, what happened in this country was a fascist regime. Even Italy and Germany did not face that, which we faced in India. It was brutal, inhuman, barbarian, the way journalists and human beings were treated by the then government. And I'm glad what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in Lok Sabha today, that who are opposing Constitution of India, who are accusing the Modi government of killing Constitution. These people, the very same people who had murdered Constitution without any remorse.
With camera person Rajesh Rikhi in New Delhi, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
Now, the Indian Parliament passed 3 new criminal laws, which are the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam to replace the Indian Penal Code 1860, Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and Indian Evidence Act 1872. These are soon to be implemented, and there are some myths related to these. DD India busts those myths for you.
The newly enacted laws Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Sakshya Act, which will completely overhaul the criminal justice system in the country, will come into effect from July 1st this year. The three laws got the Parliament's approval on December 21st last year, and President Draupadi Murmu gave her assent on December 25th. The laws will replace the colonial-era Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. The three legislations aim at completely overhauling the criminal justice system in the country by giving definitions of various offences and their punishments. However, the provision related to cases of hit and run by vehicle drivers will not be implemented immediately. There are several myths related to these three laws. There's a myth that the new criminal law threatens individual freedom and aims to establish a police state. However, the truth is that the law safeguards against such misuse. The new laws incorporate safeguards to prevent misuse of power, emphasizing accountability and transparency in law enforcement actions. The new provisions for audio-video recording of search and seizure operation ensures transparency. Introduction of EFIR provision enhances accessibility, allows individuals to lodge complaints from anywhere. The provision requiring unnecessary arrest has also been removed. The denial of bail only on the ground of extended police custody beyond first 15 days is not allowed. Judicial flexibility provision of zero FIR eliminates the jurisdictional constraints, enabling individuals to file complaints at any police station. Strict oversight mechanisms, including mandatory recording of arrests and evidence of collection, act as preventive measures against potential police excesses.
And now let's get you the latest on Kallakurichi huge tragedy in Tamil Nadu, and the death toll has now risen to 58. Union Minister JP Nadda wrote to Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge questioning the stoic silence of his party on the tragedy. JP Nadda also accused Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin of stalling a free, fair and independent probe by the CBI into the deaths and not allowing the opposition to raise the issue in and outside the State Assembly. He further reiterated the BJP's demand for removal of State Minister for Excise and Prohibition S. Muthuswamy and an increase in compensation to the victims' families. And now to give you more update on this, I am joined by DD India correspondent from Tamil Nadu, Anbarsan. A very good morning to you, Anbarsan. What is the latest that we are tracking on the huge tragedy?
Good morning. Actually, the huge tragedy, the death toll has been stands at 58 right now. And yesterday, the Union Minister and also BJP National President has wrote a letter to the Congress President asking for the silent, like the stoic silence of Congress. And they didn't tell anything about that, particularly the national leaders, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, and also particularly the people who are dead in this incident, as in basically from the scheduled caste community. So the JP Nadda wrote to the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and asked for why there is a silence on Congress side, and the DMK in the bloc has been totally silent on this. And also he requested a CBI inquiry on this, and for that the BJP state president and the state leaders are met yesterday, the TN Governor Arun Ravi regarding that, and also the resignation of the state prohibition minister Swami regarding this. And also today the ADMK, the delegation is going to meet the TN Governor for regarding the same incident for the request of the CBI inquiry and all. And particularly this incident, yesterday the Union Minister L. Murugan outside the Parliament said that the DMK government has failure on this, and they demand a CBI investigation. And particularly the DMK and the illicit liquor mafia has been have a nexus for so many years, and particularly last 2 years, and particularly the Madhurandakam incident where 22 people are died. After that also there is no any action taken on this. So this continuous death toll is increasing and focusing on this. And right now only the DMK and state government is focusing on arresting illicit liquor mafia and also raiding various places in Kallakurichi and nearby district. It seems that they didn't care enough on this, and now only after the incident took break, and now they are focusing on that. And particularly the BJP has conducted a statewide protest on the day before yesterday and said that this issue has been continuously going on, particularly drug related issues on Tamil Nadu has been continuously growing, and they given a statement regarding that the DMK and also the drug mafias have a connection on that. So they are allegedly accusing on this. So this event, particularly Kallakursi incident, the people who are died, 58 right now, and also there are a lot of people have lost their eyesight regarding this. The methanol wala consuming methanol mixed liquor has been identified and they given proper treatment. And also this methanol, where it gets from, that has also been investigated. Particularly right now, the 7 more people has been arrested from various cities of Tamil Nadu, and they're given to the CBCID inquiry, and they've been given the judicial remand today.
All right, thank you so much, Anbarsan, for joining us and bringing us the latest on what is happening and how the government is reacting to it amid the political uproar on the current situation. Now, the flood situation in northeastern state of Assam improved marginally, with the water level of the major rivers showing a receding trend. The number of affected people climbed down to 1.7 lakh in 641 villages of 9 districts. Karimganj is the most affected district with 96,440 flood victims alone. 1 death was also reported in Kachar on Monday, taking the toll up to 30 this year. Meanwhile, the Met Department has predicted thunderstorms and heavy rainfall at isolated places of Assam, Meghalaya and other northeastern states. And now in DD India News Hour, it's time to take a look at other stories making news around the country. Delhi Water Minister Atishi is currently hospitalized due to deteriorating health condition. The minister has been on an indefinite hunger strike since the last 4 days, claiming that the state of Haryana is not releasing Delhi's share of water. Earlier, Delhi cabinet ministers urged India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address water crisis and support Water Minister Atishi's fast with candlelight march. India's first high-speed railway testing track is being constructed in Nava in Rajasthan, which will be ready by December 2025, said the officials of North Western Railway. The work is being carried out in 2 phases and almost 60% of the work has been completed. The project is intended to improve the country's railway system testing facilities, and the tracks will be used. Ladakh Lieutenant Governor Brigadier B.D. Mishra laid the foundation stone to build a Buddha statue at Sindhu Ghat in India's Leh. The event took place as part of the Doordarshan festival being celebrated along the banks of the river Sindhu in Leh Ladakh region this month. The festival is being celebrated over a period of 3 days with the motive of endorsing the Indus River as an icon of communal harmony in India. It's time to take a short break here on DD India News Hour, but still to come on the other side. All the latest that you need to know from the world of business. Italy enter last 16 as they draw against Croatia in a thrilling encounter. And performers recreated the ancient Incan Festival of the Sun in Peru.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika, and now it's time to get you all the latest from the world of business. Now, stocks in a variety of sectors rallied on Monday, and the blue chip Dow Jones Industrial Average ended at a 1-month high. Investors rotated out of AI-linked stocks and added some laggards to their portfolios, betting on Federal Reserve interest rate cuts this year. Investors still expect about 2 rate cuts this year, pricing in a 61% chance of a 25 basis point cut in September, as per LSEG's Fed Watch. The Fed's own latest projection is for 1 rate cut likely in December. The S&P 500 lost 0.31%, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 1.09%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.67%. Asian shares were subdued on Tuesday while the battered yen hit a record low versus the euro, although the risk of intervention stemmed further weakness against the US dollar. Treasuries were little changed as caution set in ahead of key US price data on Friday. With the first US presidential debate on Thursday and the first round of voting in the French election at the weekend, investors remain cautious of how political shifts in major economies could impact their positions. In a worrying sign about the health of Chinese consumers, e-commerce sales declined for the first time. The yen is still pinned near levels not seen since late April when the Japanese authorities intervened in the market to stem the currency's fast declines. A low result would likely reinforce market bets on a Fed rate cut as early as September, which futures currently price at a 65% prospect. 2 rate cuts are priced in for this year. You're watching DD India News Hour, and now it's time to get you all the latest from the world of sports and to begin from the ongoing India T20 Cricket World Cup. Well, India entered into the semi-finals of T20 Cricket World Cup with a 24-run victory over Australia in their final Super 8 encounter at St. Lucia on Monday. The victory in Group 1 took India to 6 points, a mark that neither Australia or Afghanistan and even Bangladesh could reach. Talking about the game, Rohit Sharma scored 92 runs off 41 balls with the help of 7 fours and 8 sixes as India posted a total of 205 for 5 in 20 overs. In the chase, Travis Head's 76 of 43 balls and Mitchell Marsh's 37 of 28 kept Australia going, but once the duo departed, India dominated the entire game. India now will take on England in the first semi-final match on Thursday. And now to get you the latest on semi-finals, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Taposh Bhattacharya from Guyana. A very good morning from India, Taposh. Now, England are finally into semis and India is all set to face England. We now hope that the winning momentum of India may take the shape of an ICC trophy as well, isn't it?
Well, everybody is looking forward to that. It's been a while. Last time India has won the ICC trophy was way back in 2013 when they won the Champions Trophy. Now, India will be facing England now. England and India also has a bit of a history. Today, India beat Australia. It actually avenged the defeat of 19th September's in 2023 when Australia defeated India in the final of the ICC World Cup 50-over format, and also in the World Test Championship final. But India and England also has a bit of a history. 2022 T20 World Cup, England thrashed India, and that actually ended their momentum. In fact, that ended their campaign in the ICC T20 World Cup in Australia. And from then onwards, the Indian team management started what you call a new template, an aggressive brand of cricket that they wanted to play, which we see now in this particular format as well. We saw that in 2023 ICC World Cup also, where we are seeing it right now in this particular edition at the same time. And that, it will, if India manages to get the better of England, it will be everything will come to full circle. The whole template that we spoke about, the whole idea of getting ultra aggressive in T20 format actually came from that particular match in 2022. So Indian team is looking forward to avenging another team which has has been a thorn in their flesh for a long period of time. So India and England is in Guyana, and tomorrow Indian team will not be taking part in a practice match, but from day after tomorrow they will once again get back in the mode which they have been we have seen them look all throughout the tournament. So we are looking forward to this clash of titans when India and England face each other. And Guyana, what else? What better way to face that and to have that particular tournament, particular match in Guyana? So overall, what we can say is that all roads, all eyes will be on the Guyana Stadium, where India will be up against England for a spot in the final.
Tapush, since you were talking about the semi-final and the current match between Bangladesh and Afghanistan is also interestingly
It's also
poised.
going on.
Yeah, what if the result goes in Australia's favour?
Well, that's something you have to wait and watch. If Afghanistan wins, then I think it will be all over for Australia. But if Bangladesh wins and they win, they can turn the thing and turn the match. The whole statistic on its head. If Bangladesh win by a huge margin, they even have a chance to go ahead. But I don't see they winning the match by a huge margin. If they at all win the match, then it will be Australia in the same final, and they will be playing South Africa. So that another will be an interesting contest, because remember 1999 World Cup, we all have spoken about how Steve Waugh spoke to Gibbs that you just dropped the World Cup, famously quoted that. For Australia, for South African team, the Proteas, it will be a great way to give it back in this edition if Australia manages to qualify for the semi-final, and they will be playing in that case South Africa.
Thank you so much, Tapush, for joining us and bringing us the latest from Guyana. On to soccer now. Italy scored a last-minute equaliser against Croatia that sent them through the last 16 of Euro 2024 in Leipzig on Monday night. Mattia Zaccagni rescued Italy with a 98th-minute equaliser in a 1-1 draw in a tense game against Croatia, whose tournament hopes are hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Luka Modric gave Croatia a 55th-minute lead. The result left Italy second in Group B on 4 points, with Croatia third, and waiting to see whether 2 points will be enough to take them through to the knockout stage as one of the best 4 third-placed sides. Now in Peru, performers recreated ancient Incan Festival of the Sun, or Inti Raymi, in Cusco City on Monday to mark the winter solstice. Take a listen.
Las sacerdotisas
And that's all for this edition of TD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the globe on TD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on TD India. I am Deepika Mehta, and from all of us here in Delhi, thank you so much for watching TD India News Hour. Namaskar.